We are on, Sarah. We have entered the recording red button. It says we're recording now. Okay,
Oh,
it's always gotta get it. Sarah, I missed you, my friend, last week. And by the way, if
oh,
you're just tuning in, this is the two broadcasters, not an kind of a normal intro. It's called lack of a regular intro. All right, we
that is our regular intro. I love
th-
it.
this is
I love it.
this is the regular intro, and just verifying that we're actually recording, and then going, oh yeah, okay, here we are. Oh man, my lovely co-host out there in Tennessee, Sarah Jenkins. And Sarah, I feel like the sign of the times, with my faux pas of calling you Sarah Connors that time. uh,
That was great too.
I feel like it was fortuitous. So I feel like we should all be Sarah Connors right now. So I feel like at any time I could slip up your name again, because I'm kind of in a Sarah Connors mindset right now. Got a lot going on,
Yeah. Yes.
and
Yes.
and there's a lot going on, and
There's a lot going on.
it's so extra that it's unbelievable. Uh, but Sarah, tell me this: you were off on a writing retreat. Now, did the great American novel get finished?
No, it's not finished, but I'm still on target. So I have a very I don't, I'm not even going to use the word tight, because I'm going to call it hefty, because that's how a deadline like this to me feels hefty. I have a June 30th deadline. And by June 30th deadline, that means that that's not first draft. That's a second or third polished draft has to be finished of this current novel,
Whoa.
current manuscript by June 30th. So I'm almost through with the first draft. So then it'll go through a developmental edit, and
Yeah.
then it'll go through a copy edit and a good polishing. And then June 30th, that's the last day, because then it gets sent off that evening to beta readers.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then I have a whole lot to do in the month. The betas will have it in July. And then I've got a whole lot that has to be done while they're working on that for me. And then when I get their notes back, I will have approximately 2 months to get it ready for querying. That's the goal. That's a it's a lofty goal, but I am determined to query this one this year. Query, however you choose to say that word.
Larry, Larry.
I'm a
Sarah,
query girl, but everybody seems to say query. And for a long time, that was a pet peeve of mine. Every time I would hear query, I would get irritated. And I'm like, I don't know why that bothers me. It shouldn't bother me. So I'm okay with it now. I've let go of the irritation. I
I'm
let
not
it
going to
go.
lie to you. I think both of them bother me. I don't. I just don't think I like a word. I'm going to go get my synonym books. Hang on.
Okay. As long as it's not, a quarry, which is like, where you
Not in a
get
quarry.
rocks. Yeah, it's not a quarry.
Oh
It's
man.
not a
All right. Well,
quarrel.
Sarah, it's a lot going on. But if anybody can meet goals like a bad arse, it's you. Okay.
Well,
So
it was so great. So, since you mentioned the writing retreat, Lori, it was such a productive week. And I'm very, very thankful for that week. And so I've come back from that with a lot of momentum going forward. I mean, I was writing multiple chapters a day, and
wow.
that is not
Oh,
easy. Thousands of words a
no.
day.
Yeah.
So
No.
it was so productive. That's probably the most productive I have been in a writing retreat, but just in a week's worth of writing in general. And it was probably one of the most prolific writing retreats that I've had. So I was very thankful for that. It
That's
was
awesome. Well,
much needed.
yes, I'm
Yeah.
excited for you for that, girl. Bless
Yeah.
you. Yes. And by the way, is this going to be is this a scary one? Is this book going to be a scary one?
It's actually not.
Okay. Did I
This
make that up?
no, you didn't make that up.
Okay.
I this is it's so it's a yeah, it's not horror. So it's a different genre. It's in the speculative. So it's speculative genre. It's a speculative novel, and it was unexpected. The story was not intended. I was already working on two other novels, and I had a dream, which as so many of my stories have come from dreams, some of the best ones always come from dreams. And I've talked to other writers who have the same thing happen. And it just was one of those that upon waking, it was and a couple of days later and really, and it just kind of hit me. And I'm very instinctual. So when I choose to write, and everyone listening, this is not a writing podcast. Don't worry, you didn't click on the wrong thing. We'll get to the nitty-gritty.
Well, it could be a writing podcast
it could be
for today.
But so many, so I'm very instinctual. I just have an instinct of all the stories that are in my head from a day-to-day basis. I mean, I've constantly got characters and stories going through my head. I mean, it's a madhouse up here and in this noggin of mine. But I do have an instinct for like what to write. I just know when like, oh, this one needs to be written like this. Sometimes I'll just finish something in my head for fun. It's great escapism, you're walking, at night, you're getting your exercise on. Instead of listening to something, I'll just watch a story in my head. It's great. That's how my brain works. But some of them, it's like, no, this needs to be written down. And the premise of the story was so incredible. And it delves into some, what is usually in the sci-fi genre, but it's also, used in other genres as well. We get into some string theory, quantum mechanics stuff, just a little tiny bit. So I was really intrigued by that. I was like, okay, we got to write this.
Well, I'm intrigued, Sarah. I love this so much. And listen, anybody out there that wants to write. I say that to myself. Yeah. Although it's not easy. So
it's not, but it's so rewarding. If you've got a passion for it, you won't regret your time spent, putting those words on the page.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get to more of it. So I say that though, all the time. At any rate, Sarah, it's been a couple weeks since I've talked to you.
It has. And I think we've both been going through like just a lot of heavy, like busy life stuff, like go, constant stuff going on. And
so much.
So much.
So much. And we're like living in like if you could ever. Okay, it was 97 degrees here in March yesterday. And it was 20, feels like 27 with the wind chill this morning at noon.
That's insane. And did you have tornadoes at all? Like, that's crazy.
No, but last week, part of the state burnt down.
I saw that. It's so sad. I'm so sorry that you guys were dealing with that. I know there've been, there's another state that was dealing with some massive fires too. Was it Oklahoma? I don't remember.
The world's on fire, Sarah.
Texas, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We're
Oklahoma
all on
had
fire.
some bad ones a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Sarah, and here's the thing. Well, this is like grazing land. Over 800,000 acres. It's hard to wrap your head around that.
Yeah. That's as a cattle owner, that's awful. Do
you want to hear something really weird though? That I think, I don't know, interesting, weird.
I like weird things. I'm a bit weird myself.
I haven't gotten my tinfoil tiara made yet. So I'm not going to say, but it is interesting. So I learned that there's a what do you call them? Aquifers. There's like one of the world's largest aquifers in the Sandhills, which is where this fire was.
Oh, like an aquifer?
Aquifer.
Oh.
An aquifer. And the world's biggest one is here, basically. All right. So this thing produces like 40% of irrigation for the country for like, So Sarah, if you did a map of the fire and put it over the reach of the aquifer, it's right there. It's like the total thing. It's like a dot to dot puzzle.
Well,
you could layer it over the other one and it would be almost exactly the same thing. So anyway, I don't know how fire affects that, but it's interesting because of
if it affects the land to the point that people are not able to use the land properly, and entities come in and want to purchase the land, so they then control the aquifer. That's where my
Correct.
mind goes. So,
Same, but again, I haven't finished
yeah.
the crowns
Well,
yet.
and listen, all these fires. Since we're on the topic, let me just say that there's a lot of naysayers that are like, well, these are just common. These fires happen every year. This is normal in these states, yada, yada.
No.
True, but we're getting a whole lot more fires than I've ever heard about. And I don't follow these fires, but also we're seeing them at different times of the year now that are not typically common. And I don't recall them being common in the winter. And the ones that were happening in Oklahoma were like smack dab in like freezing cold temp winter time frame. So we're still in winter technically now, but it's strange to me. It wasn't during like drought season when it's 100 degrees or whatever. It's like, we're getting a lot of fires in interesting places, like you said, Lauri, and very strategically. So I'm not tinfoil hatting either. I'm just saying,
and I mean, listen, it's wide open. Okay, the area is wide open, and there were 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. The winds were outrageous. Okay, that's not an uncommon. Nebraska is kind of known for the wind. All right. But that doesn't mean like I don't think anybody is out burning fires. Like there's no it still takes a spark to start the fire. I mean, I totally get how it raged.
Right. And it's not common because in that time of year, from my understanding, from what I've heard, the reason the wildfires are such a problem in certain areas is because of the temperature, the lack of rain and moisture, and the type of landscape that they usually happen on. That it's very common because, like you said, it spreads very quickly. Yeah. What happened in Oklahoma like 2 months ago was not during any of those normal, and situations that you hear about. Like the environment for that was not ripe, and so it's like, okay, what was that about? And again, that was cattle land also.
Well,
it's always cattle land, and I understand. I guess where these wildfires happen is in the plains and things like that, but it's always cattle land. Getting the cattle off the land, right?
They're big. This is it. This is a big. Hang on. It's always with the cattle. It's no shocker that there's definitely a war on cattle, and there's definitely a war on water.
Yeah,
and there's war on. Full stop.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, so this is going to be the new thing. We had our good friend Karen on a couple weeks ago, telling us about the smart cities, but the whole thing just reeks of the 2030 agenda situation, doesn't it not? We are totally in this. We are in the sprint. We are in the 100-yard dash now of the reset. The 2020 was the experimental year. And it was like, still setting up all this digital information and all that. But Sarah, this war is going to lock it down. I really, this is going to get out of control fast. Oh, quite frankly, I think it already is out of control fast, but supposedly we're hearing things about winning. We're not winning. I don't think anybody's going to be winning. As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody's going to be winning. I think this is a way to reset so that nobody is winning.
Well, we've already lost. We've lost so much we don't even understand what we've lost as human 100%. Beings. Yeah. And if we are not willing to open our eyes and really pay attention to what's going on, the complacency is the biggest issue, in my opinion, right now, because it's so easy to turn a blind eye to this and then to think that we as individuals can't do anything about it because government's too big or whatever. And there's so much we can do. And that's not the show that we're going to talk about today, but like that there's so much just in how we, you know, how we move in our daily lives, what the things that we're choosing to buy,
Mm-hmm.
how we're choosing to live, right? Like get the philosophies that we live by, the things that we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where we work, there's so many things ways that we can recultivate
Mm-hmm.
our individual lives that will make a change in our communities and then in other communities. It's like we have to think small. Forget the big guys because they're out there. They've always been there. Empires have always
Yeah.
been doing empire things, right? But we have to take our stand on a smaller level, and there's a spiral effect to that. There's a snowball effect to that happens, and there's so much that we can do, and there's strength that comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the illusion that they have to continue to propagate, Lauri,
Mm-hmm.
is that they are too big and there's nothing we can do, and they're bigger than us and they're more powerful and they can squash us down. I believe that's an illusion. And it's illusion. It's a lie that they have sold us and that we have bought, and that people just go, well, there's nothing we can do. We just got to go with it. And they're banking on that.
Sure. Because of fear.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So
yeah. And basically, you know, what we got here is a big, you know, it's a pretty exciting time, Sarah. We got the big, you know, Thunderdome of good versus evil, you know, supremacy reigning battle, Galactica, Death Star versus the Jedi. We got the big good versus evil showdown happening right now.
Yeah,
and it is stunning. It is really stunning, and you know, it exceeds the level of the headlines, and it exceeds the level of the winning texts and tweets or whatever. It's just all these knuckleheads are just racing. They're full on. They are full run mode. Okay, because Jim Good's getting about ready to throw it down. All right. And the evil guys, they got to make this run. They got to make this run fast. And I don't know if you feel it, because I feel like everybody's feeling how exponentially faster everything is. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's like these raging wildfires. It's like one thing here, and next thing is like, wait, hang on, what's going down?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, why are we even doing this? Because of that, these bad guys over here, the bad guys thing. I can't take it. But anyway, the bad guys. We got some bad guys, all right.
Yeah.
And you know, they always talking about a little specific name to their bad guy of the day. But I know who you bad guys are. Listen, we need to just lock down the love train right now and let fear not come anywhere near you. You know, go ahead and plant a tomato plant in a pot, you know, but I'm just saying, you just need to pop the popcorn and just
we need a giant
love
vat
your
of
folks
popcorn this year. Yeah.
Just keep loving your life. Don't let the fear get you, because it's insane out there. I'm actually
really
so beyond that I'm intrigued.
I mean, at this point, all I can do is just smile and laugh and nod and I don't know.
It's just ugly out there, Sarah. So I am just not going to partake in that ugliness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of ugliness. There's a lot of, there's things I can't get into, and this would be for another show, but we're seeing some things happen that, I never thought that I would see perpetrated on people that I know by the government. It's a lot of nasty things going on right now. And I'm talking about personal situations that I personally know. And we're seeing some things right now. And it's like, if you think that MAGA is your savior, you need to take the naive cap off and pry open your eyeballs, because you know nothing. Sorry. And I'm sick and tired of this, Trump on a white horse, savior of the free world bull crap, because that's not what's happening in our country right now. It's
That's not
disgusting.
That's not what's happening globally. We are not just our country anymore. This is the whole thing. We are so ridiculous with this whole nationalism thing. We got to, I mean, we got to stretch past that. Because I got news for you. Other people are stretching way past that. Way past it. All right. So it is just kind of time to catch up, I think, catch up. And I'm just over here trying to be, what are they called? A Jedi. I'm just over here trying to avoid the Death Star. Because listen, there's about as much respect and love for being human right now as no, we're not. We are not worth anything in a lot of these people's eyes. We are so, they don't care. They do not care. They do not care about anybody in the Middle East any more than they care about us. They don't care about anybody anywhere. Quite frankly, there's too many of us. We got to get this show on the road. We got to get this race on the track. All right. And we're coming in clutch. All right. But nobody cares. None of these people care. So it's time. I feel like there's never been a better time to be a human being, to be on Team Human. All right. That's just where we need to focus. We need to get as organic as it possibly can be. All right. And just put all of our Jedi human skills, out there in the world every single day. And this podcast is off the rail. And it just is perfectly.
There's rails?
Lines up with the railless world we're living in. All right.
Yeah.
And so I just can't take it anymore. I was sitting here half about ready to fall asleep. So I started scrolling my phone and I'm like, I can't. If I see one more, this propaganda, we're getting war information through somebody's posts. This is what's happening right now, Sarah.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, there are some amazing researchers out there and journalists who have been doing and covering stuff in the Middle East and all this for decades and decades. They got people out on the ground, whatever. And it's bad too when you're being threatened to be thrown in jail for reporting on this said war. And quite frankly, we're being hornswoggled something chronic. It's about to get really ugly. But I am guaranteed to laugh while I'm crying or cry while I'm laughing because I ain't going out like that, Sarah. All right?
Yep.
No, 2020 was enough for me, dude. Bye. Listen, there's nothing that a good old rapture just can't figure out.
There you go. Well,
Sarah, it's just crazy out there. So speaking about land, though,
yes,
and speaking about how difficult it is getting to be to have it, and then sometimes you have it, and then you gotta go through weird things to keep it, to use it, all right, in the way that you intended on for when you bought it. And Sarah, that was just quite the segue. That was the segue of segues. And Sarah, here's the deal. You were going through a whole bunch of casts, feeling super heavy for way too long last year. And, you didn't want to talk about it or whatever. But now you're going to talk about it because it had you kind of tied up, had you tied up inside. And so being a land over there when your beautiful little Highland Cackle homestead you got going out there was under a little bit of not neighborly love. Is that what I'm getting, Sarah?
Yeah. And, it was really hard not being able to talk about it, wanting to talk about it, wanting to really kind of scream from the mountaintops because there's so much that people need to know. But when we've been, for everyone who doesn't know, because we haven't talked about it on the cast, my husband and I have been in a lawsuit. It feels like for almost a year. It would have been a year in May. It's over now. It's been over since we could say it was officially over the first week of February. So we're in March right now of 2026, depending on when you're listening to this cast. And so kind of feeling like our hands were tied. When you're in an active lawsuit, you don't want to go speak about it, not knowing if something could come back on you, and not, really feeling like we didn't have a gag order on us, but you almost feel like you do in a way, like especially if you have a public platform of any type, you don't want anything to come and then interfere negatively in the lawsuit. So, and in the court proceedings. So we had to keep our mouths shut, and that was hard. Really hard.
Speaking of arenas, just go, anything you're having to go through in your life that is called lawsuit, is called court, is called this, is horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It doesn't matter how righteous your thing. It's gut twisting. It's annoying. It brings the worst out in you, or it can. It brings the worst out in others. It's just not a good thing at all. And I felt really bad for you and the fam, because that's a stressful situation, Sarah, and not to mention the fact that it costs money, that nobody wants to spend money like that. Not us regular folks. No. Okay. Some people seem to think it's just, just another day at the office. Right. But, for us working stiffs out here,
we're not, we don't have, Bill Gates's pocketbooks, we didn't have all that going for us. So it's definitely was not chump change, as they say. So,
well, exactly. It's all relative. But so what was the dispute, Sarah? What's going on? Is this like a War of the Roses kind of situation with neighbors, or what do we got?
That's a good way to put it. So, and in coming on to talk about this, Lauri, I really want everyone who's listening or watching, don't forget we are on YouTube, that if you're a landowner, so if you already own land, and this doesn't have to be like, we own a small farm. You don't have to own a farm or a home. So you don't have to have hundreds of acres or 10 acres or whatever. But if you own land at all, if you are considering buying land, this cast is for you. You want to listen to this episode. You want to mark this episode and save it. Take notes. These are some things you need. And I'm not going to be able to go over the laws in every state. Obviously, I don't have all that. I'm going to encourage everyone to go look that up. And we'll talk about that, I guess, later on in the cast. But people need to be aware of what an easement is, because this entire lawsuit stemmed around an easement. And we were very naive. This is not the first land that we've owned, the first home that we've owned. We had a home years ago. We first got married. We bought a house, small house on 3/4 of an acre of land, and we're there for 12 years. And so, we thought we understood home ownership. We had never, I think I had heard the word easement, but it's one of those things that you hear without ever fully understanding what it is. And we did not recall, I'm sure it was in the paperwork. Legally, it has to be. So if you purchase land that has an easement on it, it's going to be in the paperwork. But if you don't know what you're looking at, and no one singles it out for you, and no one explains it to you, and you don't know what questions to ask. Okay. So it was our naivete that really, I feel like, put us kind of in it set us up for not failure, but set us up for, some problems down the road. Then you're not going to understand what's going on. So to talk about what an easement is, you can own an easement or own easement rights, or you can own land that has an easement on it. And so for anyone who holds easement rights, this is not negative against anyone who holds easement rights whatsoever. I would never come against someone. I believe in those rights. An easement is usually found when a property is landlocked. Okay. An easement can have any number of things in it, but a typical easement, like a basic rudimentary easement, is egress and ingress and utilities. That means right of passage from the road to the property that is holding the easement. And then utilities, electric, water, gas, things like that that can be run along that easement. An easement always specifies an amount of a size of land, like it'll like 50 feet, or it'll give, it'll have a marker, it'll have latitude and longitude lines attached to it. So it's very, very specific. And so we had an easement, a 50-foot, as we say here in the South, easement on our property that we didn't know about. That we're not aware. If we knew of it, we were not aware. It was not on our radar at all. And we have some neighbors that live, they own land behind us, but their current house is on a different road. And we've known them the whole time we've lived here. We've talked to them, very cordial, very nice people. And one day they contacted us and said, we're going to start working on our driveway. Just wanted to let you know. And we're like, wait, what are you talking about? And that was November of 2024. Mm-hmm. And so I will make this very long story as concise as possible. Basically, we met with them and we learned what an easement was. We learned the whole thing. I actually, before that, had my real estate agent check into it. She did some digging. We did some digging. We pulled up some documents. There is an easement. And so we had a 3-hour conversation with them in person, met with them, and they told us that they were not going to use the entire 50 feet of that easement. And this is where, again, I feel like, I don't want to say naive. I feel like sometimes, Lauri, you seek I want people to seek the good in others. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you seek the good in people and you can just be too trusting. And that really got us in trouble this time too, because we didn't get anything in writing. So
that's sad. Yeah.
Well, it is. And, in hindsight, looking at because he has an ongoing feud with the neighbor that's next to us. I'm like pointing. Everyone should get on YouTube because I've got like some animation going on here. That's charades. But
she is going towards a yonder.
There's a yonder out this window in that direction. But he has an ongoing feud, which is neither here nor there with our neighbor. But it really is when, in hindsight, looking back and really understanding his character through that lens, I should not have been surprised that he did what he did to us. And there's two sides to every story. And I do want to say I fully respect their rights. We never tried to infringe upon their rights. So going back to the 3-hour conversation that we had with this gentleman and his wife, and we walked the property line, we walked the easement with them, and we looked at where the property line was to where the easement was. And 50 feet, let me just say, is a lot. And so from the road to his property, so the entirety of this 50-foot easement is 3/4 of an acre. So we do run a homestead, a small farm here. We run cattle and pigs and poultry, and we were hoping to get sheep at some point. So the cattle in particular, we are organically and regeneratively farming this land. And so every blade of grass is so important. Every square inch of pasture, we need it because we don't have 100 acres. This gentleman has well over 60 acres, I think some upwards 70 some acres of land, which is fine. That's not to say because he has more land, he doesn't have any rights. That's not what I'm saying at all. But he has significantly more land. But they walked this easement with us. And they were showing us, they're like, oh, well, we would never need a driveway this big. We will not use this much of the easement. We wouldn't need that. We're thinking, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. And they're showing us, where they plan on putting their driveway, walking with us. This is where we want the driveway to go. And then after that initial conversation, They texted us. See, I have a whole lot of text messages too, and that was something I was very thankful for as well. So at least if you can get something in writing, it's beneficial. They commenced to clearing trees along our property line so they could put the driveway in accordance. And that was another thing that was in accordance with what they had initially told us. We during that conversation, they understood all the issues with our cattle, that we were going to be grazing cattle, that we had, all of these things. And so they knew we were putting a fence up. We started with a polywire fence. Then we ended up coming in with a more permanent fence, which holds cattle in much better after that. But they were fully aware of where that fence was the entire time. And this is from between November to May. And so they, came out and talked to us, stood in front of the fence, had a whole like a 30-minute conversation. There were 3 of us there. My son, my husband, and I, and the gentleman that owns the other property. And, had a whole conversation. This is after I had texted him and said, hey, we're putting this fence up. We've kept it, outside the boundary marks, because the utilities came and flagged. That's the big thing. The utilities came and they flagged where they were going to run the utilities, the electric company. Okay. Mm-hmm. So from the road down the easement, we always kept everything that we did was outside of that boundary, on our side of that boundary. We kept it away from anything that was flagged and kept it in accordance with what this couple had told us that we thought we were in agreement on. And so, and he was fully aware, had seen the fence, never voiced any concern. Because I said, if we need to move it, if there's something wrong, let us know. Oh, okay, no, whatever. Haven't even heard back from the electric department, because I'm thinking if we need to adjust something for the utilities, let us know. We're going to take care of that, right? So we're working with them the entire time. We're working with them. Everything is cordial. He even said, hey, if you need to use my tractor, you want to go in my barn, if you need to use something that's in my barn, go in there. And we're just thinking, these are the best neighbors ever. We have struck gold. What a blessing. What a blessing, because, it could be, who knows who you get with something like this. And we're thinking, wow, they're like family. So the whole time I'm dreaming up, when they move into their new house, I didn't, I may have left this out, that they were at that time, were building a home directly behind us on another part of their property. And I'm thinking, I'm going to take banana bread up there. We're going to have each other over for dinner. Yeah. I'm like, we're going to have dinners. We're going to be those.
See, neighbors. This is where they went wrong, because they got you in happy Candyland.
They did. I'm all excited, because I'm like, we're going to have these great neighbors, and it's going to be like, you come over and you do. And so the house, this whole time after that initial November meeting, the building commenced, right? And so the construction's been going on the house. Like I said, we were out there talking right by the fence one day. He says to us, you go up, this is while it's in construction, you go up there and go take a tour of the house, go walk through. He said, take a Sharpie and write things inside the walls. Just leave a message in there. Now, we didn't do that. We did walk up there and go look through the house. I didn't write. I'm glad I didn't write anything in Sharpie in there now. But he was like, yeah, write something in Sharpie on the beams, And I'm just like, so thinking, like, this is so cool. These people are great. These people are great. And one day I get a text. This is out of the blue. Go ahead, Lauri.
No, I'm just sad. I'm just sad. I feel like you were getting love bombed, and oh my gosh, now here comes the hammer's about to drop.
That's what it feels like. And so I will say this too. There's a lot of things that are in hindsight that you go, you don't pay attention to in the moment. And then you go back and you think about it and you're like, what did he mean by that? So back to that 3 hours, right?
The red flags were there. Dang it.
They were. Well, and I think it's just wanting so badly to have everything work out.
Yeah.
That we failed to protect ourselves. And that's why I want to talk about this today. That's why anyone who's listening to this episode, please don't let this happen to you or to someone that you know. There are things that you can do to protect yourself, whether you already own a property with an easement or whether you're thinking about purchasing property. So we'll go over that stuff later. But back to that 3-hour conversation, he offered to buy the easement from us. So 3/4 of an acre. He offered to buy it from us. Now I will say, and I mean no disrespect, but he offered us $10,000 for 3/4 of an acre. Where we live, land is going for $50,000 an acre. So that was way less than what it was worth, but he thought it was worth that. And these were his words, because that's what they paid for their land years ago when they bought it. And, we did think about it. We considered it. But when he said that, in that same part of the conversation, he said, yeah, we were talking. And I said, it's not fair for someone to have to pay taxes on something they can't use.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we'll get to that in a minute with what your rights are, because as a property owner, I don't care what kind of easement you have on your property. You still own the property and you do still have rights to it unless you've signed over some rights. So in his mind, he was already thinking in that initial love bombing conversation that we had, that was his land. He was going to use it and do with what he wanted to do with it. Because why would you say that a property owner can't use their land? That's not even in our easement. So things like that, you go back to in your mind, you're like, but we ultimately decided not to sell for a number of reasons. We did not want to have to pay capital gains tax on that. And we discovered that we would have. Also, our children were not keen on us selling any part of the land. And I that's part of their inheritance. It's part of the farm. There's a lot of history here. This is a historical homestead that we're living on. It was founded in 1835. And where we live, so this was a 500-acre farm at one point, but where we live is the original homestead and barn to that 500 acres, which of course has been parceled off over the years.
Sure.
But we're the core part of that original piece of history, which is, just something that is very important to me. But also, I was speaking again with my real estate agent, and she just said, unless you absolutely need the money, she said, I do not advise you to sell. This is not the time to sell, and you do not want to be parceling off your
you
your
weren't
land.
considering that at all anyway.
Yeah, well, we did. We thought about it. We're like, well,
before he mentioned it.
no, of
Right.
course, and so we came back to him and said, I'm so sorry, but we've decided we can't sell. And although this is completely assumption on our part, many people have said this to us, and we do feel that this is highly likely. We have no way of knowing because this is not something that he said to us, but we feel like, because that's really when it felt like the tides turned a bit, because this was late April when we, mid to late April, when we told him we couldn't sell. And it was May. I'd have to look at the timestamp, but it was sometime in May when we got the first kind of threatening text from him. And so I think that when he realized we wouldn't sell, that sort of changed things.
Yeah, he didn't get his way. He was just massaging you to try and get that acre out of you.
Probably, yeah. And so the text message that came across was that the fence is in the way. It needs to be moved. This is the law. Utilities. This is his exact words. It is preventing us from installing utilities, and it needs to be moved. It's delaying the construction. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be responsible for that. This is terrible. I'm thinking, why didn't he come and tell us this sooner? Because the bottom line of this is, had he come and communicated this to us, we would have moved the fence. We would have worked something out. We would have said, hey, what's going on? It felt very bullying. From that point on, everything that happened was like bully. Like the mood changed, right? It went from super friendly to, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. So that initial text came through And I contacted a lawyer
It's
because,
getting some Sarah's old triggers up.
well, my first thought was, before I do anything, I need to contact an attorney because I don't want to do anything wrong here. This
Right.
sounds like because we're dealing with property, we're dealing with state laws, we're dealing with all kinds. I am a fish out of water. I don't know what. I have no idea. This is
Mhm.
not my this is not my playground. So I contacted an attorney, and that was good because he was able to look up the specifics on our easement. And our easement was really great for us because it literally, and this is why I was saying at the beginning of the segment that if you've got an easement, you want to know what's in that easement, because people can, when someone gives someone easement rights and you have that drawn up, they can have things added in there. But ours was bare bones: ingress, egress, and utilities.
Mhm.
And so that is only rights that he has. So it's still our property. We're still allowed to use it. We can't block his ingress and egress. So in other words, we couldn't put something on the easement that would, anything that would impede him from getting from the road to his property.
Right.
We can't impede, and we can't impede utilities. So the attorney said, hey, call the utility companies. He said, it's in their hands now. He said, if you're not blocking their access, call the utility companies and see. So I did. And this was the big kicker for me. This is when I really got to see his full, what was going on behind the scenes with this gentleman. So the electric department, I spoke to an engineer at our local electric authority, and he told me, I talked to the water department first, and they said no, because what we do is at the road, so you're not blocking anything there. And the engineer at the electric department said that no, your fence, because he'd already been out there. He said the fence is not in the way. He said, but if you could put a 14-foot gate on that fence on that side, so that if we needed to do repairs or whatnot, so that we can easily access and get in with our big trucks, that would be great. It's like, no problem. We'd be happy to put a gate in for you. But he said, no, as far as we're concerned, that fence is not in the way. We can, and he told me exactly where he was going to put the pole and everything. But that's when he told me that they were going to have to, they were going to be putting it in a different area than what was already flagged. Because I was like, well, we kept it outside the flags. And he said, well, and again, I'm trying to leave names out of this just to do the right thing here. But our neighbor apparently had changed, because they had already designed, the engineer had designed how the electric was going to be run, where it was going to be run, and they were ready to go. This is key. My neighbor changed his mind on how he wanted it run and where he wanted it run and where he wanted his driveway. So from wanting, from him initially telling us he was going to put his driveway keep it as close to the fence line as possible, he now wanted to move it out as close to that 50-foot mark on our side as possible. And he wanted the electric run underground or some kind. There was a whole thing. And so this engineer told me, he said, well, it's going to be a while anyway. He said, because now that he's changed all of his plans, I'm going to have to go and redesign it. So I was so thankful that he told me that, and because that was eye-opening. So the delay had nothing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we got blamed, and that came out in court. The lies that were told, his attorney was saying that in court, in all of the documents that was in there, that they were out. Some of the things that they were suing us for, because they sued and we countersued. Some of the things that were in the court documents were how they were out so much money because they were having to run generators because they couldn't install electric.
No.
Yes. And they couldn't finish the home. And first of all, construction companies, and I had other people who work in construction tell me this, that is what they do anyway. They run generators in order to power their equipment when they're building a home. I was told this by several people. No one was living in the home. Even after it was completed, they were still living in their home that was just around the corner. They hadn't even moved in yet. And, so it was all of this pain and suffering because they were suing us for all kinds of, all these damages, and they couldn't install electric. And the complete and total lie, it was because he changed his mind. The electric department had to go and redesign everything, but he wanted to heap that on us. But he knew going into that in court, that was an easy way for him to get what he wanted, which was for us to move the fence, which he could have just come to us in the first place and said, "Hey,
Right.
I know, I didn't say anything before, but we kind of need a little bit more space here. We need," so I want to pause here, Lauri, to say for anyone who has easement rights, I 100% understand. First of all, I don't think that we should be selling landlocked land. I don't know, what is the deal? How can we sell, how can we have land and people building on land that has no road frontage? But anyway, I understand why easements exist. And if you're an easement holder, I don't want you to be blocked. I don't want your rights stripped away. I understand that you have rights as an easement holder. I respect all easement holder rights. And you should be allowed to use and the 50 feet is a standard easement. There's a reason for that. There's an additional 5 feet away from the property line that can't be used. All right. And 50 feet gives you enough for utilities, for driveways, for movement, for everyone being able to maneuver and not being squeezed in and all of it. It assures that the person can get to their home. I would never want to block that. And so I recommend, I understand that, I recognize that. But one of the things that came out in court was easement holders' rights, and this may be for the state of Tennessee. I'm not sure how the language is used from state to state, but that easement holders' rights are paramount to property owners' rights. And that stung quite a bit because if you own a property, to me, that trumps anything. You are a property owner. It is you purchased that property, you own that property. I'm sorry that there's another property that's landlocked. Maybe don't buy a landlocked property. Maybe don't build on a landlocked area. We're negating, it gets back to all the cattle, all the ranchers, so much going on in our country with negating the rights of property owners. It's like, so you own a property, but you are now limited to what you can do in certain parts of that property. And to me, that's sort of what an easement represents. But that said, we purchased it with an easement. We didn't give over this easement. So we, that's on us as far as we, needing to know those sorts of things. But we could have moved the fence. But so, yeah, all of that proceeded. And one of the things that was done, he started spraying chemicals all along the easement and then over at the top on the other side of our fence. As far as we know, he only sprayed on the easement side. But as anyone knows, when you're spraying chemicals, they don't stay in one spot.
Right.
So there's blowover. So if the wind is blowing, it's going to blow that. When it rains, the rain is going to wash that across wherever it spreads. And those chemicals go down into the soil and they don't stay in one spot. There's no invisible barrier that says, oh, this is where it was sprayed, so that's where it stays. And the more rain you have and the more time that goes, it leaches into the soil and it spreads. And so if you have an organic farm and someone sprays chemicals next to your farm, you no longer have an organic farm. He was spraying right next to our cattle. So, and that is against Tennessee code. So a part of our countersuit was about that. And my understanding is, had we pursued the chemical spraying, not only would we have won, but he violated some state codes in doing that, and he would have been in some major hot water. So that was a very big deal. He even went as far as to he cleared out a bunch of trees and things on the easement, piled up a huge pile of brush right next to our side of the easement where he can't do anything, lit it on fire. This was on New Year's Day, set a huge brush fire right by our woods, and pulled trash, was hauling bags of trash from his barn, dumping them on that pile on the easement, to set it, for kindling, to burn this pile of brush and tree limbs and all of this. And I mean, it's
Oh, hang on. Now, hang on. I got questions. So is he burning now the same area? Is he burning before or after spraying chemicals?
after.
He's spraying chemicals after the fire?
No, he's burning after the spraying. He
Why,
had to
why is
stop.
he spraying? What is he spraying? Why does he need to spray? What's
So this is to kill the weeds and a lot of the overgrowth, so that they
well,
can
he was
install the
starting
driveway.
fire though. He could just the fire would have done that.
Well, he didn't burn the whole easement. He was spraying the entire easement.
Well,
all
that's
of
my point. All right.
all of the
So,
weeds and all of that green stuff.
but isn't that
grows,
supposed to be a driveway? No,
Yes.
that's just
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
this is
understand.
the driveway.
This guy's not raising any crops or anything right now with this. I don't understand what the necessity for him to kill weeds was if it's just going to get dug up.
That's
Okay.
Well, so this is what he does anyway. So our neighbor that he's had an ongoing feud with, and I'm trying to stay as linear as possible in this story, so we don't get all kinds of tangents. So I'm just trying to make sure that I kind of hit an order here.
You
but,
us? Okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, for our listeners, because I could go off, I could squirrel in multiple directions, and I think this is so important. And I'm hoping that some people will catch this cast, Lauri, that need to hear this, and that we can spread this and really get the word out about just being cautious and careful as a landowner. Because I want to use, if anything, I want to use what happened to us to help other people, not have this happen to them. But his ongoing feud with our neighbor, one of the things he does, he sprays along the fence line there, and it gets into our neighbor's yard. And our neighbor has talked about that. And things that and I bring this up for character's sake, but also for potentially what could happen to us in the future. He does things. He doesn't done any, as far as we know, he's not vandalizing anything. But he does things just to annoy and to harass. So he built his barn right up against the neighbor's fence line. I mean, right on the property line, deliberately. He claims this, and this comes from his own mouth. So he fully admits this, because the neighbor didn't want him to do that. And he's running cattle over there right up against the neighbor's property line because the neighbor didn't want him to run cattle over there. And they will go and play loud, they get the big speakers, right, and blast loud music from inside the barn right behind the neighbor's house just to upset it. And I'm talking late at night. And he encourages anyone out here in this community to go set up in his barn, because he's told us this multiple times, and play our music as loud as we want, just to harass the neighbor. He hates him. Some of the language that he used to describe him, I will not repeat on the show. So this is just when he doesn't like someone and someone doesn't comply with his agenda, this is how he treats them. And so now we're getting the other side of that. We were on his good side for a while. Now we're not, and so the lawsuit, really took shape. And like I said, all of those lies came out in court. The kicker. So for all of the easement holders that might be listening to this thinking, well, I'm so thankful. I that's how I get to my house. Let me bring this up now. So what I haven't told you yet is that this same neighbor that holds the easement on our property already has, and for years, has another easement just on the other side of our neighbor with a driveway that he's had built for many, many years now, and a gate and everything that goes all the way up to his house. That's where he hauls his cattle from. That's the driveway that all the construction crews used to go back and forth to build the house.
So it does annex to the new property?
It goes straight up to the new property. He doesn't technically need the easement on our property to access his home and his property. And that was the kicker, right? That was the thing that it's It came down to it, and the only reason they wanted to use the easement they have on our property for their driveway was because it's a straight shot, which the other one is pretty straight, but it's longer. This was a shorter distance, a straighter shot, but it was where they'd always dreamed about having their driveway. They said, I understand that. It also will cost a little bit less to run utilities on our property than the other easement he's already been using for years, right? And that the construction crews are using. All right. So this is, but yet, and I understand all of that, and he has that right to use our easement. But at that point, it becomes greed. At that point, it becomes just pure greed that you're willing to not only, and let me just say, what I haven't said yet also is when we built the fence of that 50-foot easement, we only had 14 feet into the easement. That's it. We had 14 feet of that easement. So he had 36 feet.
Which is funny.
We had 14. To be that upset, to be that bullying about it, to take someone to court, right? And to not even try to communicate and solve this outside of court, to do everything that he's done and the lies and the bullying and everything else over 14 feet when he already has a driveway to access his house is pure greed and power. I mean, it's just, he's used to getting what he wants. He's a bully. He's used to getting what he wants. And
that's what you said. I mean, this guy sounds like classic textbook, I'm going to be cool and do all the thing because I want something. And I'm going to get what I want. Oh, wait, you said no to me? Or, wait, this isn't going down like how I thought in my fantasy. So gloves on. Okay. I mean, what is that? I listen, it's a good thing this guy isn't on Yellowstone. All right. No, you can't be.
Well, this reminds me so much of, shows like that, or you've seen shows and movies or read books where there's like this land dispute and the two families, the warring family, and then somebody's killing somebody's cattle and somebody got killed over here.
Right.
But then two people on both sides, fell in love in the midst of it. And now they've got it. Like, there's all these epic stories, written about things like this. But it was like, when you're living it, it's not quite as epic. There's no romanticizing this.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm dying over here. I don't like the word. I don't think that the word ease should be in this. I'm not feeling that.
No.
I'm feeling there's nothing at ease about any of these easements. It's almost like they're a hotbed. It's like they're a little dispute magnet just waiting to happen.
And let
me
tell you,
buy a property.
Yes. And so just the air of what I'm picking up on people, it's like when when we would be talking to someone, be like, we're kind of going through something or whatever. And they, you're trying not to go into the whole thing. It's like, we're in a lawsuit, right now or whatnot. And we're in a land dispute or whatever. And almost every single time is it an easement?
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah. And then one time I was like, well, we have an easement. And this one woman went, I was going to ask if it was an easement. That sounds like an easement. And I was like, oh, so it's a general thing. And how many court cases have been over easements? I do know of an easement right now currently that's working. I have a very good friend who her driveway is an easement. So they don't own. So they have easement rights. Their driveway sits on an easement, but they are not the property owners of that easement. They get along very well with the neighbor. And everything is super cordial, super kosher. Everything is great. And it's working very, very well for them. And so I think if you get mature adults involved who are willing to be mature adults and do the right thing, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Right. And again, as excessive as I think it is that and this is my opinion, and this is where I have to learn how to accept circumstances for what they are and not dwell on things. But so to me, in my Sarah brain, he's got another driveway. He's got another easement. He doesn't need ours. That's excessive. he still has the rights to use that part of our land. And there's nothing I can do about that. But it's like, at least communicate with someone, right? Like, he still has those rights, but be an adult about it. Don't sue somebody. And so it was like when I told you there was a text in May that said the fence has to be moved. It's preventing us from, installing utilities. And I contacted a lawyer. It was and the utilities. It was exactly 2 weeks to the day from that first text to the second text where he then threatened his attorney on us. This is the last time I'm going to tell you. All communication needs to be sent to my lawyer, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to pay my attorney a retainer then, because it looks like this is happening. Because at that point, with the threats and with the way he was acting, when we already had an agreement with him, I'm like, I'm not just going to go move the fence. I'm like, what is it? What is happening? Right? Like, you can't come talk to me about this. You can't, like, why the threats all of a sudden? And it did feel like we were a bit under attack. And it's like, these are our grazing rights that are being disturbed. We're willing to work with you. Not once had that easement been impeded. There was always access from road to his property. Nothing was ever impeded whatsoever. And so, like I said, the lies were a big thing. They continue to tell this whole thing about how we prevented them from installing utilities, and they were out all this money because they couldn't install utilities, and we're responsible for that. And it was just, it was so wearisome. And we get through all of that, Lauri, and as the year drags on, and all of this, finally, the judge made an order for us to move the fence. We did an appeal. So long story short, we weren't able to do the appeal yet. There was a whole legal thing. We learned so much about law in all of this. There was a whole legal discrepancy that we couldn't do the appeal until that part of the initial suit was finished. And then we could do the counter, because the counter suit hadn't been heard yet. And so then they tried to get us for contempt of court. I mean, our attorney had filed an appeal and everything. And so then it was, contempt of court. And I'm like, that's
ridiculous.
That could face jail time. I mean, not that the judge would do that, but it's like, okay, so then we went into like agreement proceedings. So basically they would drop the contempt of court charge if we drop our lawsuit against them, including the spraying of the chemicals. And so it was like, okay, well, let's make sure we've got something we can agree with here. We had to agree to not harass them, which I thought was hilarious. Apparently, when our calling the sheriff's department, because we live in the county, not the city, our calling the sheriff's department on him when he was burning right next to our woods that could have caught on fire. We didn't know what he was doing out there, burning his trash on our property. Apparently that was harassment. So we had to agree not to harass him or his family. We had to agree not to build anything new on the easement. There's really nothing that we need to build there. We have our fence. We've got an original property fence that's already on the other side of the easement. We're allowed to maintain that. We're allowed to do repairs to it, maintenance, all of that. So everything was fine with that. But he wanted to do landscaping on the easement. He wanted to put up a privacy fence on the easement. What? So you don't have to look at us every time you drive by, and you drive home to your house. You don't have to look at what you did. No, you don't get to put up a fence on my property. I'm the only one that can put up a fence on my property. Like, that's how my brain was. I'm just like, oh, no. When you come home every day, and you leave, and every day you have to look at what you did. I felt like,
or you can take your alternative driveway, since you have two.
Yes, you can take your alternative driveway, but you're going to look at what you did, sir. You're going to look at our cattle. You're going to look at us, and I am going to wave. I'm going to hi every time he drives by. But all kidding aside, we did not agree to any of that. So what ended up happening was, yes, the long and the short of it, we moved the fence back the rest of the 14 feet. Had to do that during an ice storm. Let me just tell you. that was fun. We moved a fence during an ice storm, and but we did not allow him to do. So in the agreement, we said no to all of the above, none of the landscaping, none of the trees, none of the, no fence. He can't. So in the end, he was left with what he initially had, but now it's in writing with the court. So the only rights that he has are traveling back and forth and putting up utilities. And part of that with an easement is maintenance. So if a tree were to fall on his driveway, he has the right to clean that up. If there's weeds coming out, like if he needs to weed eat or mow or something on the easement, he's allowed to do that to maintain his driveway so that it's accessible and that sort of thing. But we are also, because one of the things they initially sued us for is exclusive rights to the easement, which would have meant, and the judge did not grant that, but that would have meant that we would own the property, but we would not be able to use that section of our property, but we would own it, in title only, but we would not be able to use it. They had, I'm just going to say it, he had the balls to sue us for exclusive access. Why? I don't know. We were perfectly willing to share,
Right.
and so
That's the thing.
Yeah, he didn't get that. And so according to our attorney, we still have all rights and privileges to that part of the property, except we cannot impede his ingress and egress. We can't park on it. The cool thing is they've already started installing the driveway. And so we affectionately refer to it as our new driveway. So you should totally come see our new driveway, Lauri.
Oh, I will.
we have, that's it, because it is, yes, he's building it and paying for it and all of that, but it is kind of technically our driveway because it's on our property. So we have full rights to use that driveway. We can drive on it anytime we want. We just can't park on it. We can be on that property, that part of our property, anytime we want. We can do anything we want to, as long as we don't keep him from driving back and forth to his house, or utility workers if they're working on the lines. And so
that must frost him.
Well, I plan on using it a lot, actually, and not for spite. So for anyone listening, like, it's not a spite thing. For me, it's a protection thing. Our intended use of that part of our property now is purely for the sake of protecting our rights as property owners. It is our right to use that. It is still our property. So we're going to use our right in order to protect our right. That's one of the ways that you protect your rights, is by fully utilizing those things that are your rights, right? I mean, we could expand that to all kinds of things, this nation and us as citizens and things like that. You have to utilize your rights to protect them. That's one of the ways that you can protect your rights. And so, because if we were to never use that and we just let him be the only one that used it, even though legally we're not giving up our rights to that part of the property, we are sort of passively giving up our right. It kind of becomes his at that point. So we plan on using it on a regular basis, because and as a reminder that
it's very interesting.
You are using our land. We are graciously letting you use our land. You have an easement that you're holding, and you have rights, and take your rights, go back and forth, do your thing. But we also have rights. It's still our land, because I think one of the things is, from the very beginning, he viewed it as his land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he wanted to give you some chump change to make sure that it could be. I mean, that just pretty much said it all. That's what he was frosty about.
It was,
because now he knows technically you can do this, and that's just a great point about use it. That's a use it or lose it situation, Sarah. It's not just for muscles, okay?
Yeah.
But it's a very good, very, very good point. And I think, you can point to several things people aren't using them for, and they are getting just sort of soft and doughy and passive, and makes it real easy for a bully to come along and go, and you're like, I didn't really use it that much anyway. I mean, and so I think it's fantastic. Now can you run your cattle on there and bring them back to on the other side of the fence?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We put a gate. So when we moved the fence, we installed a gate that we installed the 14-foot gate that we purchased, that the electric department asked us to install, which we had purchased right after they told us that. The lawyer said, don't install it yet. We got to get to court first and see what all's going on, but let a judge hear it first. But
Mhm.
we had bought the gate right after the engineer at the electric department told us to. And so when we moved the fence back during the ice storm in January, or beginning of February, whenever that ice storm was, we put the 14-foot gate in there. So we have, easy access right out into that easement from there. And I'm from different areas of the property as well. So we could take our cattle for a walk,
Well, I'm curious about so you have a fence, and then you mentioned that you have an old original fence, right?
Yeah.
So what can you graze? Can you use that grass in between, or has he ruined that soil now from spraying?
Yes. Yeah. Well, so he has, I don't know everything that's been sprayed. So I think that's all. I wouldn't graze him there, but there's not much grass there now because they've cleared everything. And then along that fence line. So here's another kicker for you that's still happening as of in the last week or two. He's continuing to, I don't know if as he's cleaning up, we did have some tree limbs fall during the ice storm. I don't know what he's doing over there, to be honest with you, but all these limbs that are falling down, he is piling them up onto our property line fence. So the older
Getting
fence.
ready for a big fire again, Sarah.
Probably. And I'm like, he's just damaging that further, which just means we're going to have to do more repairs and bulk it up or whatever. But it's like, it's disrespectful. Like, yeah, you need to clear some limbs. Absolutely. I understand. But piling them up, and he's not cleaning anything up. And some of the driveway that they installed is spilling over into our part of the easement. So, I mean, it's, which we have I don't know if I should say this on air, but we have it's nothing bad, but I'm just thinking it's not something that we've actually said publicly yet and I know that our neighbor's not listening, so I guess it doesn't really matter, but we have a family cemetery now that is up at the front part of our property, adjacent, right next to the easement. And so it's like, if anything gets into that, I mean, it's filed, it's marked with the county. And so it's an official cemetery. I mean, he could get defacement of a cemetery, which that's a state. You don't want to start messing with that. I've seen state laws on that. That's a big no bueno.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot.
Which is the whole reason you got to have permission and the whole deal to even get part of your own land designated for that.
Yeah. And just for so going into easements, both parties purchased land that already had an easement on it. I think that's important to note. So going back, there's a family that owned this property years ago, and another company that, for whatever reason, I don't know if they owned the land back there or what the situation was. They worked out an easement agreement with owners, like 2 owners ago. Okay. And this was done in the 1980s. So this is done before us or our neighbor had purchased either property. So the easement's been there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And an easement, so for all of our listeners, an easement is going to, unless it states otherwise, is going to be there for the life of the property, unless both parties agree to vacate that easement. So for instance, if you had an easement on your property, you own the property, there's an easement on your property, and the person who owns the land that holds easement rights says, I don't need that easement, I don't want it, like whatever, you guys can work that out, right? You can go then have that easement legally removed from your property if there's an agreement there. So there are ways to get out of an easement in some states. Every state is different, but in some states, if you can prove, and it is very difficult to prove this, I've been told, but if you can prove neglect of an easement, like abandonment, like somebody has held easement rights for a certain amount of time, they've not used it, They've let it overgrow. In some states, a court can vacate an easement based on that, and goes the property owner, then can win that. There's a lot of different things. It all is going to come down to when they were saying repeatedly in court that easement holder rights, so that not the property owner, but easement holder rights are paramount to property owner rights. That is generally that is upheld by my understanding in our legal system. And so property owners need to know this. You need to know this going in. And I would say I would advise anyone who's approached about giving easement rights to someone, don't do it. And I don't mean it to be rude, to be mean, I understand somebody's needing an easement. As a property owner, I, as a general rule, would never give easement rights to anyone for any reason. Probably not even my own children. And I say that because, like, if they were, building property on my land or something, because that is going to go with you don't know 10, 20, 30, 50 years down the line how that's going to affect someone, how it's going to affect resale. The simple fact that we have an easement on this property is going to impact our resale value. Not just value, but not value. Our property holds its value. It's but the resale, as far as it's going to be harder to sell this property. It's something you have to think about. People hear easement and they run. They don't want to buy a property that has an easement on it. So if we need to sell, it's a harder sell, right? And so that's something you have to think about. But protect your property, and
very much should be an instructive thing when you're just not looking for a house with a decent yard. When you're getting into some land, that should be spelled out for people better, because you don't. I remember. I don't know if our property had an easement on it or not. I remember the word being floated around, but I just don't recall the context. But
that's how we were.
And listen, you got 75 pages sitting there in front of you.
Yep.
And you don't know always the questions to ask.
Well, yes, exactly.
That's the problem. I felt like I asked a ton of questions, but I'd never bought 30 acres before. I didn't know what all could be, come with that, to know the questions to even ask. And so I do think it's important that you brought this up for people, and more people are looking to do small homesteads and things like that. So I think that's real important.
It is. And if you're an easement holder, please be as respectful as you can. I'm not assuming that people wouldn't be, but please respect that you are being given that's a grace that's being given to you to be able to access your property. I would not buy. So I have got friends that have told me, we won't buy a property that where there's an easement on it. I mean, either way, but specifically where the only way you can get to your house is on an easement. And I wouldn't want that either. I would feel like I was trespassing. I would feel terrible. And it is a very sticky situation. And I think it depends on the person. He feels that this is his right, and he doesn't care what he tramples on. I mean, that's the attitude we've got. And other people are going to feel differently.
Yeah.
And I think, it's just, you are setting yourself up for trouble when you get into an easement. But if you're an easement holder, I would say just please remember, the number one thing is remember that is not your property. You do not own that property. You are being given, a blessing of being able to use someone else's land to get to your property, to your home, and to have your utilities. Please be respectful of that. Be mindful of that. And please do not ever think of that as your property and your rights, and unless they're being infringed upon. I stand up for yourself if the property owner is treating you unfairly and is not allowing you to pass to your home. That's unacceptable. We've never impeded that at all, but just please be respectful. But mostly what I want to talk to is property owners. And so if you find yourself in this situation, if it's already too late, if you're like us and you're neck deep in it, the best thing to do is get a good real estate attorney. I don't care if your best friend Joe is an attorney. I don't care if you've always used, so and so for all your legal stuff. If that person does not specialize in real estate law, I highly recommend, I don't care how much it costs, you do what you have to do. Get a really good, well-versed real estate attorney that's been doing this for a while, that knows what they're doing, because real estate law is tricky and real estate law is no joke. And so when you're dealing with land, get you a good attorney. Make sure you're getting good advice, and follow that. If you're thinking about buying land, okay, you have got, even if it's not easement, if any words are floated up at you, from the 75-page stack of paperwork that you're unfamiliar with, don't feel stupid. Ask until it is explained to where you thoroughly understand. Ask as many questions as you can and take notes. And if you hear the word easement, you want to find out, okay, where is the easement on this property? How large is the easement? What does the easement entail? Is it just ingress, egress, and utilities? Or is there more? Like, what are the specifics of the easement? Who holds the easement? Where is their property located? Like, you want to know everything. You want to get yourself so well versed in this easement that you could have written the easement yourself. You want it, and then you don't just want to get that on paper. You want to go to that property and you want to walk the easement. Go take a look around. Walk the entire easement, by the way. Walk from the road to the other property and see and you get the full, take if there's nothing marked, because a lot of times these easements, if you buy a property with an easement, there may already be a driveway on it. There may already be people that are going to and from their house, right? So you can easily see, well, this is where that is. Right. But if you're like us and you get land and there happens to be an easement and there's nothing on it, take one of those giant tape measures with you. Measure the whole thing. See exactly where it goes. Ask before you buy that property. Can I have this easement flagged? Because they don't always go in a straight line. That's the thing about properties. Nothing goes in a straight line, right? It can go at an angle. It can zigzag a little bit. So get that flagged, get that surveyed. Ask that you want the seller to have that surveyed. This is your time before you sign on that closing, on closing day, to make sure that you understand what you're getting. And then so go see how that's going to impact you. Say, well, we probably won't use this area of the property, and that's totally fine. If somebody comes and they need to use it, I guess that wouldn't even bother us. That's fine. Or you look at that and you go, but that's right by our whatever, or, oh, we were going to run cattle over here, or whatever you're trying to do. Maybe you don't buy, big property. Maybe it's a smaller property. It could be any number of things. But maybe it goes right by your kitchen window. I don't know. Yeah. So you want to know. And I would get all the specifics that you possibly can. So don't sign an easement over on your property. If you already own a property that there's an easement on, know your rights. So I would definitely find out what your rights are in your state. You want to learn every bit of easement law in your state and court precedent and all of that. Talk to an attorney, just so if something comes up in the future. You know anyone should know what their easement says, what is in it. And if you are looking to buy a property that has an easement on it, I would ask as many questions as I possibly could. And then you need to sit there and take a couple of days to go over every scenario, what that easement could potentially mean to your family and to your land and to the things that you want to do with that land should someone come through and put a driveway in it. So that's just, you got to protect yourself. That's some of the words of wisdom that I can pass on, having now lived through this.
Yeah, no, that's some solid advice for sure. Because otherwise, like you're just going about your life, and now one day you're in a courtroom over something you forgot you even had. You didn't even understand it when you had it.
Yeah, we don't remember them ever saying that we had one. And that's why I was saying, if we did, if someone said when we closed on that land, because we bought it separately, we bought our house and the land that it's on, and then we bought the land adjacent to it. So it's all together one property now. but we bought them separately.
Mm.
And they may have mentioned the word easement, but it did not register in our
It
brain.
wasn't really made you focus on it.
Yeah, didn't know what it was, didn't ask questions. So that's my other piece of advice. Like I said, is any word, phrase, anything that floats anywhere, you see it on the paper or it floats around and you don't know what that word means, ask. Now is the time to ask, right? Before you are neck deep in it. Find out what all those words, and it doesn't hurt if you're buying a property and you get that, the seller, the buyer agreement, all of that stuff. I'm not sure how much a real estate attorney would charge just to look over the paperwork and make sure it's all good and explain anything to you, but it might be worth, it's not going to be a courtroom retainer fee. Right. So, I mean, for a few $100s to have an attorney look that over for you and explain things to you and to look at it and see what your rights are in there. And it doesn't hurt. To me, it's worth the expense because now we're out thousands and thousands of dollars on court expenses, fence moving expenses, and just the stress.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
It's not worth it. It is very stressful. To go from thinking that you have friends to now you feel like there's this enmity between you. So the house they built is just across the creek from us, and just across the creek. Yep.
Really?
Just right there.
It's there.
And we have no animosity towards them. We have no hard feelings. We're doing everything we can to shine our light, but it still is like this. There's that negative energy there.
It's a rub, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just hard,
Well, Sarah, I think you should just go ahead and indulge yourself in the fantasy of taking that banana bread, and then you can make them either just really uncomfortable.
Would that be considered harassment?
I don't know how you can be harassed with fresh banana bread.
Did I tell you that? I don't know if I mentioned this. So we had to put in the
That's
agreement
just dumb, though,
that we wouldn't harass them, but we tried to put it in our end of the agreement, and he would not agree to not harass us, but we had to agree to not harass him.
Right. I think that's so ridiculous.
I
mean, it is absolutely the opposite land of what happened. Yeah. Absolutely 100%.
Well, and my attorney did say, she said, so it is clearly defined how he is allowed to use the easement. And she said, if he uses the easement for anything else other than what is, clearly written out in that easement, then we can call the police. We can do whatever, whatever. He is outside the boundaries of his rights on that easement. And at that point, she said he may not agree to not harass you, but harassment is not legal. And so she said it's, kind of futile to put that kind of stuff in there anyway, because if he is harassing you, you still have recourse. So, it's like he's not allowed to harass us. We might say, he may say, I'm not going to agree to not harass you, but you still can't harass somebody. It's not,
I know. It just really does start to feel infantile, It
does.
And as adults, it's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
Just some people just never get out of that phase. He just didn't handle it well. And it was really mean-spirited to go down the path of love bombing. Only to then to completely go a 180. I personally have issue with that type of behavior.
Well, all he had to do was come to us and say, hey, we need this entire 50 feet. I'm so sorry. Could you please move the fence? I know I should have told you sooner.
Right.
But yeah.
But he just wanted to try and get it for his own first.
Well, I think
I don't know what's happening.
Used to, and just from what I've seen in our little neighboring area, I feel like he's used to getting his way. He is a bully, right? We've already established that. And I feel like he's used to getting his way. And so I think he thought that by sending us that text message that, we were going to be like, oh, okay, we'll move the fence. He's saying, this is the last time I'm going to tell you, you can talk to my attorney, yada, yada. And he's
Right.
thinking, oh crap. Or he's thinking that we're thinking, oh crap. Okay, well, we'll move the fence. I don't think that he, realized that, no, we're not just going to bend over to a bully. We are going to stand up for our rights as well.
Right.
And, ultimately, he is the one who filed the initial lawsuit. So, I mean, he came after us. I'm glad that our lawsuit didn't get put in first, because ultimately it was, him coming after us, the property owners, and we moved the fence, and it's fine. We have less grazing area for our cattle. We're making do. That was my biggest concern, was like, are we going to have to sell cattle? And as of right now, I think we're going to be okay. We have fenced in another pasture at the front of our property. Just outside this window here is a newly fenced in pasture. I
Little
think we're going to
front
be
yard
okay.
pasture. I like it.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be okay, but we have to be really careful because we do regenerative grazing, or rotational grazing, regenerative farming. We are there are some people who will just run a ton of cattle on a whatever space. We're very cautious about the pressure to our pasture, to our land, because you don't want to overgraze it, right? You want to refurbish that pasture. And so you can have so much pressure on it for so long, but you have to let it rest for so long.
Right.
And so we try to let every paddock that we put up, because we rotate them in small paddocks across each pasture, and we try to let each paddock rest for a minimum of 30 days. We have been fortunate to get 45 days out of a rest out of a lot of our paddocks. And so I think that we should still be able to get the minimum 30, but that just allows, it's so much healthier. Otherwise, what you're going to have is you're going to wear out your land.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're grass fed only. We don't feed any grain. So we're 100% grass fed operation. And so we have to protect every blade of grass, the soil, everything, so that it continues to thrive and grow. If not, we will have to feed hay year round or sell cattle, because we don't have the amount of acreage. We can't just go put them on 60 acres over here for a month, and then the next month put them on 60 acres over here. And they go, like, we don't have that kind of operation. We're a small farm. And so it is every square inch of grass is blocks of gold. To us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, can we just be good neighbors? I mean, why would?
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. Love your neighbor.
Ridiculous.
Be kind to your neighbor. And if for some reason, if ever our neighbor, who will know who he is, if they are listening at any point in time, I do want to say that I hold no animosity towards you. My family, we have no animosity to any of y'all. And we hope that we can move forward with peace in this situation. There can be peace between us, and that we can both parties live our lives to the best of our ability, and just be as cordial as possible. And we are here if something's ever wrong and you need help. We're still here. We're willing to help you, because that's what we feel we're called to do. I'm not here to punish anyone. That's not my job. And so I'm here to help and to serve. And so I find that in the worst trials of life, some of the best ways to get through that is through service, is through loving others, and having humility. Pride goeth before the fall, right? And that comes in so many packages. I think in any circumstance, if you can be humble, if you can have love, and you can seek those acts of service, that is how you get through life to the best of your ability, right? That really, there's so much healing in that, whereas bitterness is just going to, breed up around all of those negative feelings. So So
That's a good point. And I think it bookends the beginning of our wacky rant about, fear and bitterness. No, no, no good. Let's just, be adults and be of service to people, and not everybody's, on the same page for sure, but
right.
that's okay. You just shake it off and keep going with that mentality. Otherwise, you got the bitterness thing piles up because you think, you're the only one doing it, whatever.
Mm.
Nope, you just got to raise the bar on yourself. And it's just, we just don't need this right now.
No. And also
Nobody
and with
needs
that,
these lawsuits and all
no. You should never people that's another thing, Lauri. People joke about, I'll sue you. Oh, that happens. Well, I'll sue them. I'll just don't use that loosely. Please don't joke about
No,
lawsuits.
exactly.
That
They're
is
so
not
stressful.
something you want to be involved in.
Mhm.
But I was going to say one of the things that is a constant reminder here through all of this is like how blessed we are to have the land that we have. We don't have 100 acres, but we have enough to do so many things.
Mhm.
And so he took 3/4 of an acre of grazing away from us. We still have I think about worldwide, like all the people in all the different situations and how hard it is now, even just in the United States, for people to own property and how all this land is being bought up. And so we're losing so much. I think even just our small farm that we have,
Mhm.
what a blessing it is to have this. And so I never want to feel like, oh, well, he just took that, or we don't have that now, or we just need, or we don't have enough. We have more than enough. And
Mhm.
it's that reminder daily that just look around at what you have.
For sure.
And then we have land that, so there's more land next to us and behind us that is owned by some wonderful friends of ours. We feel like they're family, and they are it's sort of two ends of the spectrum, Lauri, because they're the polar opposite. They are so kind to let us use basically we're allowed to use their property. They let us get hay cuttings. So all of our hay we can source, right here. We don't have to search out and buy it and not know what you're getting, so we know it's not sprayed. We know exactly where it came from. And they just are so kind to basically, we can treat it, we use it like it's ours. We actually don't use it unless we have to, but like they're just like, our land is your land in a sense, because we're respectful to them, because we don't step over boundaries, because we treat them with respect. They treat us with respect, and they've been so kind and gracious to us. And it's so I'm so thankful for that as well.
Yeah.
So on one side, we've got like negativity, and on this other side, we've got such positive, blessings. And so,
Yeah. And people just need to. I mean, we used to let our neighbor have our like 12 acres worth of hay. It's like, you cut it, you take it,
Yeah.
And he's like, well, how much you want from it? I was like, cut it. I don't want to walk through it all year just doing nothing. You got animals, go ahead and take it,
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well,
I'll let you know if we're going to do anything different with the land down here, but don't see that happening.
Well, Lauri, though, that's 12 acres. 14 feet is that's a much more serious situation. You have to get that 14 feet, the 14 feet is a big deal.
That's the magic mind bender.
It's a big
You
deal.
Just jump the broom on that one.
I mean,
don't be going into the 14-foot territories.
36 is not enough. You got to add that additional 14. I know.
Land disputes, though, it is really like it starts to bend my head a little bit,
Yeah.
It gets a little nuts. But you're absolutely right. You have a beautiful thing going out there, and you can take care of your family from that. And
we're thinking Well, we're gonna wait and see how it plays out. But right now, it looks like our dream of getting some sheep is not out of the picture. When I say getting some sheep, we would be getting two, one male and one female. Like that's it, just to have a little bit of lamb and some milk and some wool. There's a lot of spinners and dyers here locally. Not a lot, but there's, in this area, and Middle Tennessee has, there's a lot of these. People that do all the yarn and stuff. So it'd be interesting to do that. And I think we can still make, two, maybe 3 sheep work. But I think 2, because they have multiple babies.
Yes,
I've been watching some things and I'm like, okay, so multiple births is common. Like, typically your cattle have 1 calf at a time. Twins are very less common, but sheep, no, they're popping them out like it's like a Pez dispenser, right? Like here's another one, here's another one. So I feel like if we just had 1 female, we would have several. It was kind of like rabbits, right? You're going to have multiple sheep, so I don't need 2 females.
And I think if they're representing us Pez's out here, okay, that's important too. They're just cute. I mean, after just coming back from Ireland, you kind of get the sheep fever.
Oh, you do, and Scotland as well. And the thing about, we talk a lot about health on the show. So, lamb, or sheep meat, lamb, whatever you want to call
delicious.
It. Yeah. It is a higher quality protein than beef.
Yeah,
okay. So it's a higher count of protein and a higher quality of protein. And the milk also is a higher quality and has more protein in sheep's milk than in cow's milk. And so it's one of the ancient foods, right? So
right.
Sheep and goat and all of that. Those are ancient foods. And
it makes the best of cheese. Yeah.
It does. It does. And so super, super healthy. Very, and actually, for anyone who's thinking about like running livestock for profit, actually, there's a lot of statistics out there that show that sheep are, especially right now, far more lucrative than cattle. It takes cattle, the turnover rate is so long. So cattle, they're like humans. A cow is her gestation period is 9 months, like a human. And they're having 1 calf at a time. So the reproduction rate of cattle much slower than sheep. So that turnover rate with sheep is much better, and you can get a higher price for it because on the market, lamb and sheep is much, it's more expensive. Like yeah. So
that sounds awesome.
Anyway,
come on. It's getting to be
I just
big
want some
homestead out there.
Want some sheep, I
don't blame you. I don't blame you. It seems like it's going to complete the ensemble.
We'll see. I'm like, I don't even know if we're ready to be shepherds yet. Like, the cattle are easy.
You're already
the pigs
shepherding.
Are easy. Yeah,
you're
true.
shepherding the whole
Poultry's
thing.
easy. Yeah.
And sheep are easy.
They're easier than goats. Goats
are crazy.
They're
funny, but they're crazy. I like them, but they're wily.
Yes. Yes.
2 sheep. We're talking 2 here, Sarah.
2 sheep. I had a dream while I was on the writer's retreat so that was my son, my youngest son, Sean. I talk about on the show for all of our listeners from time to time. So when I'm on retreat in the spring and in the fall, that's his spring break and his fall break from school. And so he was on spring break and my husband was home. And so they were building this fence while I was on retreat, and which was a great experience for them. But I had a dream like halfway through the retreat that I came home and the fence was complete. But it was a 2-foot tall fence. And in my dream, that was normal. It was totally normal. And the cows were fine. They were just staying in it, but we had sheep in the dream. We had gotten our sheep already and they kept coming, just jumping over the fence, this 2-foot fence and wanting love. And we was just petting their heads and scratching their necks. And I was like, well, that's an interesting dream. So anyway,
sheep are coming. That's what I'm feeling.
That's what I guess.
That's what I'm feeling. You got Charlie Chuck out there. Give him a job.
Yes. Well, and then Rosie, our livestock guardian dog. So,
I don't even
you know,
know Rosie. I'm
you
I'm
don't
I'm
know
I'm
Rosie.
so behind all
Oh,
this.
she's our Great Pyrenees. We got her before the cattle got here, actually. She came
Chuck
um
has a friend.
last March. No, he doesn't like her. But she
Why?
loves him. She adores him, but he does not like her at all. So he
Only
wants
child syndrome,
nothing.
man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah. Well, when we
Charlie.
first brought her home, he was scared to death of her. She's this big, she's Great Pyrenees, white, fluffy, giant, abominable snowman, right? Comes out of the Forerunner. And he's like, whoa, what did you just release? Like,
He
what is
never got
happening?
past it.
No.
Yeah.
And now he's like, oh, it's her. And
Does
she's
she
like,
stay
let's play.
outside? She stay
Yeah,
outside. Yeah.
she stays in the pasture with the cows. Yeah.
Is she
She's there.
happy? She's a cow dog.
Oh yeah. She's good. She's got her shelter and all of that. And she runs around and she harasses the chickens because they try to eat her food. And so she's got her territory marked.
It's a whole thing going on.
And did you know they're nocturnal?
Pyrenees?
Yeah, well, Great Pyrenees, but livestock guardian dogs in general, but definitely, for sure, the Great Pyrenees.
No, I didn't know any
so
breed of dog was.
yeah, so they're when I say they're nocturnal, they're most active at night, which makes sense because that's when you've got predators and things. So
Mhm.
they expend a lot of energy at night because they are up and they are super aware, like hyper aware at night, doing all of their things, and so they sleep a lot more during the day, and they just kind of chill during the day. They're still
Maybe
there if you need them, but yeah.
I feel like okay, hang on. Maybe Charlie also has some issues with this, his masculinity.
He might, yeah.
She's out there, fending off coyotes,
Yeah.
and Chuck's inside on his little pad.
Yeah. On his throne.
Yeah. And he might be a little like emasculated by that, Sarah.
He might, well, if he wasn't so afraid of the cattle.
He's a big
He
baby.
shakes. He'll get out there and he'll just shake.
He's still scared of him?
He can't. He's not a farm dog. Listen. He's a German Shepherd, but he wouldn't even make a good drug dog. Like this dude is a lap dog. He's a giant lap dog. That's what he is.
He's part lab, isn't he?
He is. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say he's really kind of full lab. He's just. Oh, I love him so much.
He's a mess. Oh, but we do. We love him, and he protects us. He protects the home. She protects the farm.
Yeah,
it works
great.
out well. So
I can't wait to get back out there and see it. Sarah, you got a cute thing going out there on the Ohioland Cackle, and by the way, you have a YouTube channel people need to know about.
Yeah, so we're growing and continuing to grow more and more every day. So yeah, check us out, Highland Cackle, CACKLE, on YouTube. We're also on Instagram. I'm trying to do more with Instagram right now because there's like nothing there, but I'm trying to do some more with that. But yeah, YouTube, we're posting a lot of videos. Got another one coming up this week. And so I would love everybody to check that out. Basically, you could just follow our journey here on the farm and see what we're doing.
Sarah's got some good ancient techniques on foods and cooking stuff. And
yeah, we're working on it.
And it's very cool. It's very cool. So, well, like Highland Cackle, you can also find the two broadcasters on all of the platforms, including, yes, now YouTube. You get to see this. Oh, who doesn't want to see this, Sarah? Who doesn't want to see like I'm in an office every other time in a different office?
I know. You keep changing things up on us. I'm like, where's she today?
Life is changing up on us.
What is it? Not where's Waldo? Where's Carmen Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, where in the world is Lauri Day?
Those came out when Ethan was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, those were out when I was in elementary school.
Oh well, listen.
I'm way back,
Sarah. So, I skipped some of that stuff. I was at the wrong age, but
it's okay. It's okay.
I knew of them from Ethan.
I'm still dating myself. That was back when like the Apple computers and the IBM computers were like what you had, and it had like the big bulging out green screen.
The big eye.
Yeah. Yes.
fisheye screens.
And you printed on that perforated edge paper.
Yes. And the sound. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And we had games like Lemonade Stand and Oregon Trail. And listen, I could reminisce all day. I love it.
Come on, Sarah. Well, listen, I think, I don't know. It's just, I feel like right now the whole having the little homestead thing is such a blessing. So I think you nailed it when you said that despite all that you went through last year, you came up on top. You're still coming up on top. You've shown great success. Your animals have been healthy and such a blessing,
Yes.
and what you're feeding your family, that the whole sting of the legal fees will subside, and you have something that just keeps on giving in a way that's so beautiful, and you can share that. And, in these times, I think what you got is just invaluable, and really it's just, we have to stay on the pivot, don't we? We can't, we have to be adaptable. These things hit us sometimes, blindside us, whatever. But reaching back towards the gratitude and reaching back towards the, this ain't forever. And and knowing that through going through some stuff is going to reward. It's like, it's going to create a new soil. It's going to create the new pasture. It's going to create, this is just how it works. Life works like that, whether metaphysically or actually literally or whatever. And we just need to keep that in mind. Don't you think, Sarah?
I agree. And that would be what I want to tell all of our listeners, is to count your blessings. They're there. Count what you have. Don't count what you don't have. Just count your blessings. And I heard something really beautiful today that stuck with me, and I want to leave this with you and with everyone. And the context was, thinking about like the gifts that God has given you, looking at those as your assignment. But as I was mulling that over, and I think that's beautiful, I was thinking about, what if the hardships in life and the tough times that we go through are also an assignment that has been given to us. And it's how you handle that. Is like, that's what the test is. This is your assignment. How are you going to handle this? How are you going to get, like, what you do with your assignment, whether it's the gifts that you were given and how you use your gifts, or whether it's those tough times, those difficulties. This is your assignment. Yeah. What are you going to do with your assignment? And I think when you look at it that way, because I just had this aha moment, and I was like, wow, that is such a great way to look at that. And thinking about what we went through the last year, if that was our assignment, I hope we did it well. I hope we're still doing it well. And that makes me think about more things that I can do to better myself and my reaction to things and my response to things and my outreach and all of that. But no matter what you're going through in your life, let's look at things as, let's count our blessings and let's check our assignments. What have you been assigned, and how are you going to what are you going to do with that assignment?
I agree.
I think it's important.
100%. Very good. Yeah. We can't just cave to fear. And I personally believe that, I've said this several times, but nobody's here on an accident, and you're not here in an accident for the time that you're here either. So if we've all got some big assignments ahead of us, let's just, we got to finish well, well. Yeah. Whether it's your day or your task in front of you, or it's your life or whatever, finishing well should be just the two words we should, strive to do. And to do that, you have to have gratitude. It helps completely. From losing your mind and getting sucked into fear and making yourself sick. We can't. No, let's stand firm and finish well. Sarah, let's finish this podcast out well. All right. I love you, girl.
Love you too.
Everybody, come on, get on the YouTube, share our casts. If there was one that moved you in particular, go and Arsenal. We got a whole bunch of them. So go through our stockpile and see if something speaks to you, because honestly, there's a lot of stuff there, Sarah, that I feel like we need to It's too bad almost we don't have them on YouTube, but
I know.
at the same time, and when we were young, brand new starting out this podcast, but we did some of our best casts. Some of our topics are totally timeless in, I think, some of the things that people need to hear right now. I think they're things that people always need to hear. There's a lot of encouragement in them. There's a lot of, storytelling in them. And so, just help the two broads out if you don't mind, and share whenever something speaks to you.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, I'll see you next week, Sarah, for another bright and shiny episode. Thanks for sharing your story, sister.
Oh, thank you so much, Lauri. I appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners.
Yes, thank you so much, listeners. We appreciate you more than you know. And everybody, what are we talking about? Peace out.